On today's video, I start attacking these gaps around the door that are driving me crazy, and got out a whole lot of the metal that's there and replaced it with all brand new stuff. So if you haven't already, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment below if you find anything I did useful or you got any feedback. Do the whole YouTube thing, and let's just get at it. Let me just take a minute and tell you something that you probably know, but you probably forget. Every tape measure is going to be a little bit different. You scan all the way to the end, pull it tight. See that 30.5 is kind of on the rolled over edge, not on the edge. This one, that 30.5 is actually at the true edge, not the rolled over edge. And this one is kind of in between. Not only that, but they all use different thickness lines, which can throw you for a loop. Now, obviously, if you're measuring with a Sharpie, it's more important to figure out what side of the line you're actually cutting on, and to use the same tape measure every time. I've had a few that were out almost 1/8 of an inch between tape measures. And lastly, this. Now, see that movement in the end? Now, if you are, say, pushed up against something tight and measuring out so you can make a filler panel, when you pull that tape measure out so that you can cut your filler panel, you're probably hooked on the end, pulling the measurement. We can add a 32nd of an inch there. So a 32nd there, 1/8 of an inch on cutting on the wrong side of the Sharpie line, and maybe a 1/16 or a 32nd of an inch. It adds up really quick, cutting your pieces the wrong size. So here's another tip for you. When you're doing something you've already done once, and you cut another piece of metal so that it's already prepped for the other side, and you even mark it, stick it in front of the rest of the metal instead of behind it, or else you tend to cut yourself a new piece for a third time, and then use this for the lower instead of the upper. Well, other than one filler panel on the passenger door, she swings and she latches. Well, took everybody's advice, made myself a frame table. As you can see, it's pretty level. It'll work. Just like that, with a little help from the wife and my son, we've got her on my ultra true level fabrication table, just in time for it to rain, so I can clean up this mess and make her happy. Still pretty light. I mean, between me, the wife, and my super strong son, that's all it took to pick it up and move it. So this will be the last move, I think, before we stuff the frame under it, and I actually need some kind of mechanical help. So since I've got this thing leveled out on my frame table, I'm going to start adjusting these gaps here, most noticeably this hideous thing across the top and the back and just everywhere around both doors. So let me show you how I'm going to do that. So pretty much what we've got going on is that if we were to look at what we have here, we've got the roof coming down like that here. There's a lip in right there where my finger is. Comes down for the weather stripping and across and back up. So since this portion here is basically level with the top of the door, we're going to cut all of this out, and then starting at the A-pillar and running all the way back down to the point above the hinge, we're going to build a new piece that sits like this, that fits inside this section here. And once I've got that all fitted, welded up the entire length where I'm happy with my gap, being that this metal would be about 3/16 of an inch all the way around the door from about here back. I can cut out a section of this roof skin here because I've got some panels that aren't quite right anyways. And I'll cut out a section here and I can bring the roof down to meet that point there, which will fix all of my gaps. I can fit it, make everything fit better, make it so that I can put some weather stripping in here so these doors close pretty solid instead of, you know, having a bit of a wiggle. And then the tin work on the top will actually help my fitment in the top here where I was trying to stretch metal where it doesn't quite work. So that's my plan. Now I just got to start cutting pieces out of the way. And as they say, there's no turning back now. Well, with all that out of the way, first step was to go back to my scrap pile. And these shelves I've been cutting up, they actually had a lip, 1 inch by 1/8 inch, that was folded into the outer lip edge of the shelves. So what I've done is I've cut a piece and actually added a little because it wasn't long enough, and basically bending it up so that it ends up kind of in this territory on the inside. I've got it kind of roughed in from here. I got to go to the inside and make it fit there, and this will be the basis for my flange that I can bring out. Well, step one of putting it back together is done. I got a flange here and fits the inside of the door pretty good. I got to mess with back here, focus, because I built these out of front and rear doors, and the rear doors were different. So this step here is actually getting into the space that I want the flange down at the bottom. So I'll probably end up cutting that out, flattening it as I finish up my doors, but I should probably do it first, but I'm not because I'm impatient and I can see this gap from the outside of the car. So this is the one I'm doing first. So with that piece welded onto the back, see it, it's got a pretty reasonable gap, the length, and welds up to the front there. And I cut my piece, first piece of the actual jam here where the weather stripping would sit, kind of thing. Another piece off the shelf, and I continued it up here. I'll show you why when I close the door here. So that's more the gap I was after, and I got it up to the front. I can still move this around a little bit, but up on the front I tapered this off because this slip here, because these doors don't belong on this cowl, this spot where it overlaps will be fixed when I put this body line on my cowl. But I'd like to put this body line in my door and transfer things back and forth, create something that never existed. So I'm actually going to roll this metal into that body line, and I'm going to roll this door edge in here up to the cowl instead of changing up that inner piece. And I'll deal with all of this when I deal with the doors and the body line down here. But for now, since we've got that piece there, next up we're going to get the flange there. So I'll have another 90 piece here, and then the flat will continue all the way up to this one, and then all that'll be left is a little quarter circle filler piece between the 1/8 inch plate and the tin flange here. Best 20 bucks I've spent in a long time. See this from the inside. I got that rear piece on there. See the wrap around the door, ties into the front piece. And obviously I've got some door work left to do. I've said that before, but on the outside, other than that corner that I obviously gotta fill in a piece of that corner, and I'll fix that gap there. The rest of it is pretty much money right up to where I need to add on the door. And I mean, I can tweak this up and down a little bit when I connect the roof panel back to it, but we have something structural. And honestly, I mean, once this is welded, ground down, painted, even with the door open, this is something I can be proud of. This is so much better than what was even there factory. It feels cleaner, and I can finish it out however I want. It's not like this thing's getting a headliner or anything, so I want the metalwork to shine through, and I think this will when I'm done. So I cut a piece of plate, tin, and got my calibrated bending device, fire extinguisher I pulled out of the scrap metal bin, and going a little bit further because it's easier to hide stuff when you go with the bigger patch. Got a little bit more room to manipulate metal here, and got this piece where it's pretty darn close. So what I'm gonna do is cut my front edge, and I'm not gonna cut all the way back. I'm gonna cut a fair ways back. We're gonna lose some of this, and we're gonna replace this area and this area once I get my English wheel and just do it properly. I'm gonna put this much time into the car, I may as well make it right. And I don't need the English wheel for this piece though, because really I want this to only have movement in one plane here. That'll keep everything straight and strong and help me continue my line to the back. So, and do a little bit of trimming here and get this all mocked up. So this is tacked up here and a couple of things. So it's just overlaid on the top here. This all moves. I want to make sure I got it in the right spot before I trim it. On the front, I've trimmed it to this edge here, and we've got room for this to go down if this is cut back. But you can see how I didn't match this, and there's a reason behind that, because the way this door sits, this actually seems to continue straight up this roof line quite nicely, whereas this section here, let me grab something straight, kind of see there was no way to make those two lines line up. So I'm planning on cutting back right here, hammer this down to match this point, and then I'll grind that lip off when we fill in this whole piece here. And the nice thing about this only being bent in one plane is this edge stayed straight. So once I make my cut here, I'll actually be able to pull the roof up to meet it. And this low spot where I had the seam, and this spot here, I can actually fix a little bit of my roof, straighten it out here, so I've only got a body work out the middle there. So I think this kills a couple of my problems all at once. And it looks like crap right at the moment, but in a couple of minutes it'll look better. Well, didn't take very long at all. See, it's got some nice shape to it. And these shadows just keep messing with my head. It's not nearly as bad as these shadows make it look. But I'm gonna get a piece cut that fits into there and pry up on here. And then I'm gonna go inside and get that last sliver done inside of there. Well, the rain came, the night is over. Well, over as far as I'm gonna work. I cut this section back. I got a bit of a filler in here. I got some finish work to do here. I've got to roll this door in, but this roof is actually making me super happy. I'm quite thrilled how it's came out. And on the inside of the door jamb here, see, I got a filler piece up top there. Once this is all welded and ground down and cleaned up and painted, it's something I can actually be proud of. And when you compare it to what came out of here, oh, it was old box tube. I'd cut section, twisted, everything had been welded back together a few times, and what was in here was just a hot mess. This I quite like. And that's where I'm going to finish this out tonight. It's starting to get late. It's raining. I got some stuff to do. I got to prep for my week. End of the week, I'm headed south to my buddy's shop, Backdoor Fab. We're going to get on bead roller, English wheel, and a frame for this thing, plus a bunch of stuff for him. I'm going to shoot a bunch of video while I'm down there and take you along for the entire ride, show you around. But for tonight, this is where I'm calling it quits. Do me a favor, if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. It'll help me out quite a bit. Like the video, comment below, do the whole YouTube thing. Give me some feedback. I love it. I'm loving the comments, and try to answer every single question that you might have. And I'll see you on the next one.